Good afternoon. Welcome to Know the Patterns Live, where we chat with community leaders, entrepreneurs, families, and passionate individuals who believe in changing the narrative. Today, we chat with Saroj, who is a Queens, New York native and had a wonderful childhood exploring the city. Saroj completed her OBGYN residency training in Baltimore before moving back to New England to be closer to her family. She's also bilingual, speaking French and Spanish, and considers herself to be a reasonably accomplished world traveler, which is on hold for now, and an avid knitter. She enjoys a good meal but does not cook and likes the theater. So grab your blanket, cup of tea, and sit back and enjoy this chat as we learn more about Saroj and her work in the community. Welcome, Saroj.
Good to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining me today on this beautiful Friday afternoon. So, tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Well, currently my two main gigs are being a mom. I have two boys that are almost 7 and 3.5, and that takes up like all of my time. And my other real job is being an OBGYN. I work at Harbor Women's Health in Portsmouth, and we do surgery and deliver out of Portsmouth Regional Hospital, which takes up the other all of my time.
So no time for leisure, no time for self. Trust me, I understand and know that too well. Tell us what has been the most rewarding experience you've had as being an OBGYN.
Ooh, that's hard. I mean, there's so many facets to that job. It ranges from the easy stuff like delivering a happy, healthy baby, and that's always a win, right, for everyone, to the hard stuff where you have to tell people, you have cancer and you've got a hard road ahead of you. But I think they're both rewarding in their own way. I've really liked doing this job here, actually, because it's the first time that I've been practicing medicine in a community that's pretty small, where I feel like my work is more impactful than maybe when I was working in big cities. And I couldn't really see the fruits of my labor, but here I get to see a lot of the babies I deliver growing up, which is really cool. That might be my favorite part, actually.
Seeing, just experiencing, like, deliver the baby and then you see the child growing up, it's just
I
great.
see them at the playground, at school. They're all over the place, at the gymnastics, all over. So that's been really fun, and being able to keep touch with the moms and, follow along in people's lives. That's a pretty big privilege. So I've enjoyed that.
How many babies have you delivered?
Ooh, I don't know anymore. Honestly, I don't know. After my first year in residency, so this is like 2009, it was like 100. And that was more than 10 years ago. So let's just say 1,000.
Oh, wow. Wow. Just to even think that number, it seems like it's a lot. Like if you lined up all the babies that you delivered, right? It's like 1,000 kids. And I help bring you into the world.
So I hope we're all doing well out there. I don't have tabs on all of them, but
yeah. Awesome. I know you mentioned just being in a smaller community, you can see the fruits of your labor, and it's much, it's a rewarding experience. Do you feel like you've been supported since you've been here in 2016, back in Portsmouth since 2016?
Yeah, I think so. I have found that the community has been pretty welcoming, and my work practice has grown, and in our social lives outside of work, I think we've been we've got lots of little tentacles everywhere now, mostly with the kids, but yeah, I think so. I feel like they're there for me.
Which is good, and that's the support that you want. Now, are you able to determine like a distinct, I guess, support system from a larger hospital now going to a smaller community, and plus two, it's all women, right?
Yeah. The practice I work at now is is privately owned by 5 women, myself included.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been actually really amazing. Prior to that, I had always worked for like a big corporation or hospital, and you're just like a cog in the wheel. So
Mm-hmm.
this has been really an opportunity to take control of my own time and career and direction. And, if we're able to chart our course in the community and decide what we stand for and what we don't in a way that's really good, I think. So that's been
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And I
Yeah.
actually really like this hospital. It's smaller than other places I've worked, but it's a lot more collegial, I would say, than big hospitals in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Now, you being a part owner of your practice, what has been the one thing that you say from, I guess, from now that were you right in at 2016 when you came? Is that the reason why you went straight to this practice, or it happened later on down the road?
no, I had left my training and worked in Lawrence, Mass for a little bit, and then we had moved here in 2014, and then I was looking to be closer to home.
Mm-hmm.
But no, initially I just worked for the practice, and then after a couple of years, they gave me the option to become an owner, so I chose to do that.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent, and that's amazing just to be, just to have a piece of the pie and where you're able to again, set your own schedules. You can not go and come as you please, but you have a little bit more flexibility. When you are an owner, you have that say. And what do you feel like has been the one thing that you brought to the table to help create change in your current organization?
Oh, well, let's see. Um, Speaking Spanish has been nice, I think, because that's something that was not on the table before. We don't have a ton of patients who don't speak any English, but we have a few, and so I think that's been really meaningful for them.
Mhm.
Um, I also speak French, but I haven't found anyone here who only speaks French, so that's
Mhm.
just for fun. And then, I mean, I do probably keep an eye out a little bit more for some issues for communities of color. If I come across them in the literature, then I'll send them out to the group. Maternal mortality has been a big focus in women of color in the last few years, although, our population doesn't have a huge subset of women of color, but we're doing our best on that. And so far, it's going well. So just trying to keep everyone's eyes and ears open to some of that stuff. Although I
Mhm.
have to say my partners are great about that anyway. They might have been doing it without me. So
Now, have you seen since you initiated that, or you're keeping your eye out? How do you let people know that you're here in the community, you're a person of color, and you're kind of like it's kind of like welcoming new patients? Because I know sometimes when you move to a new area, you're looking for someone you can identify with who understand your problems, as an African American woman, your needs and what you need as far as having healthy um, women, womanly parts and everything is working well, right? So you want to make sure that somebody, the doctor that you talk to knows exactly what you're speaking of. Now, how do you kind of like reach out to the community and let them know that you're here?
yeah, we probably haven't done a great job of that particularly. I mean, when I first joined, there was sort of like a campaign about my arrival, but I don't know that we do a ton of advertising around that issue specifically. I do know
Mhm.
I've had patients who find me, like, I think they just look and see who's there. And
Mhm.
I've come for that reason. They said, I picked you because you're a woman of color, and I thought you'd listen to me and you wouldn't, say that my pain wasn't real or that, whatever, discount whatever they're going through. So I
Mhm.
have had some of that, but we haven't marketed to that specifically. I mean, partially because it's such a tiny, tiny market, unfortunately, up here. There's
Mhm.
just not a lot of patients of color in general. And then you have to winnow it down to like women, and the numbers start to get really tiny. But I'm here if anyone needs me.
I didn't know. I don't know. I can't remember if we met like years ago and I just had forgotten. But I know that, when I saw you, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, like is she real? Can I touch her? Like, is she here? Is she real? Because, again, I've been here almost 10 years, and just to find, it's like the diamond in the rough. You're hoping you can find someone, or you don't hear about having a woman of color who's an OBGYN who can relate. You don't, again, we don't hear about it unless somebody tells you. And that's not like, I don't think when you're having a conversation with someone, it's like, yeah, I found a person of color, as a, hey, let me refer you. It's not like one of those top of mind subjects that you have, topics that you have. But now that I know that you're here, I'm going to help to spread the word and let people know that you're here in New Hampshire, you're in Portsmouth, and if you want someone, a person of color, we can definitely send you those referrals. So, yes. So now that I know, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And there are more doctors of color in the area than you would expect. So if you look, you'll find a few people out there. Probably more than you would expect based on the demographics of the state as a whole. But we're here and there.
Scattered about. So I know you mentioned, having two young ones and them being boys. And, I know they're at the state 7, you say almost 7 and 4, right?
Almost 4, yeah.
Almost 4. What do you do as a mom, being a doctor who was looking at women all day, and then you come home and then you have these two energetic young souls that are all over the place, I'm sure. What do you do to re-energize?
Oh, Lord. I don't know. I haven't figured that out. You just keep growing, some of it is they just bring a lot of their own enthusiasm to every minute of every day, and you just get caught up in that to some degree. But it can be hard, like walking out of work at the end of the day, you would beat down by whatever, you had a hard day. And then you walk in and they're just like, and they are out of control. Plus my little one is usually a mess by the end of the day anyway, but because he won't take a nap anymore. But, so it can be hard, but I think what gets me through is I usually have 1 day a week off, and I usually work half day Fridays. So I know I have that 1 day a week where I don't have any work stuff going on, and me and the boys can do whatever. We can go to the beach. We can, I don't know, depends on the weather. We can go play in the snow. We can go to the library if it was open in theory. Whatever we want to do. So that's really good, I think, for me. And having half day Fridays also means I can pick them up after school on Friday and we just go do something fun. I'm not stressed. It also helps a lot that my partners and I, really when we walk out of work, we leave work behind because we have each other's back. So whoever's on call takes care of everything. But that's really important because it means when I'm not there, I'm not there. Which isn't true in every job. I've definitely worked jobs where they're always calling you. Whether you could be in Belize, they're calling you. So that's part of, I think, how you manage it.
So I wanted to turn this just a little bit personal. So as I continue to mature in age, I was curious to find out, at what age do you begin to experience symptoms of like menopause?
Yeah, so average age for menopause is 51, which means some people will be a little before that and some people will be a little after. It can range anywhere from 40 at the really low end to, I've had women who are 58 and aren't done yet, and they're usually happy about that. But the perimenopause, where you're starting with the hot flashes, the night sweats, skipping periods here and there, or maybe having worse periods, that can go on for a couple of years before. So a lot of times in people's late 40s, they'll start to have that going on. And then somewhere in the early 50s, the periods will stop. The hot flashes and stuff might keep going, but we can work on that.
Because I find myself sometimes just and maybe in a sense of denial too as well, where I'm sitting down, I'm not doing anything, I'm just sitting. And then all of a sudden, it's just like my body heats up, like I've been sweating, or doing a workout, and then it just goes away. Is that something I should be concerned about? Like, I really don't want to attribute it to menopause. I just say, oh, maybe that's something that's going on with the temperature in the room. It's just like one of those. But is that one of the symptoms or signs, should I say, of like
Well, it
premenopause?
sounds like a hot flash, but I won't
Oh,
hold you to it. Um, yeah, but that can go on, like I said, for quite a few years on and off before you really get there. So it's not dangerous, not harmful. It can be very annoying and bothersome. So if that's the case, sometimes we'll treat that. But if it doesn't bother you that much, just kind of ride it out.
yeah. Okay. I'm going to write it out and stay positive and just pray that that's the only experience that I have as I approach my mature years ahead of me.
I
Right.
hope so. There's a new book that just came out. I think it's called, The Menopause Manual, maybe something catchy like that. And it's written by an OB doctor named Jennifer Gunter. It's a pretty good book, I would say, if you're looking for some reading on that topic.
No, I'm not. So
If anyone is.
as no, I'm not. I'm not looking. Not at all. So, so what does the word or what does community mean to you?
Ooh, that's heavy. I mean, community, in my opinion, is the people with whom you share your life. So the people in your neighborhood, the people who share your interests, who are in your clubs or, whatever you're into. Like maybe you have your knitting community and your baseball community. So I'd say it's the people that you surround yourself with. And then we're all part of larger communities that we don't like necessarily choose to belong to, but we just do by
Mhm.
virtue of our birth. Like I'm an American. I guess that's a community that just happened. Um, Stuff like that.
Mhm. What is your favorite quote?
Ooh, I don't know. Well, I don't know. This is going to be superficial, but my current favorite quote is from David Rose from Schitt's Creek. he says, he says, "Your body, your problem." Which that one just cracked me up. Um, that's
That's
not very intellectual of me.
that sounds like something that would probably be on maybe a doctor's wall. Like if you go into the office, it's like your body, your problem.
Right. Well, he thought his sister was pregnant in that scene, and like he like basically was saying, "I'm not helping you with this baby." He was like, "Your body, your problem." But
Mhm.
that kind of cracked me up. Of course, that's not at all how I live my life. I'm always like, "Tell me about your body and its problems." But anyway,
I love that. Now you mentioned, or I mentioned that you're an avid world traveler. What is one place that you want to go to that you haven't been able to get to as of yet?
yeah, my current top of bucket list probably New Zealand.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I've been trying to get there forever. It's just crazy far away. And after we had kids, like, I don't know, it's going to be a minute because I don't think I could get there in one piece with them. You'd see
Mhm.
me on the news. I'd be like bailing out of the plane over the ocean to get away from them. It's a crazy big flight. But when they get big enough, that's on my to-dos.
Mine is Hawaii. I really want to go to Hawaii. Because one, I want to experience it with my grandmother, but two, I know that it's like a 13-hour flight, and I just can't wrap my brain around being on a plane that long. 2 hours is my max in a plane, so I don't try to book anything outside of 2 hours, which is crazy. But I will get on the road and drive 18 hours in the event I need to. But it's just I don't know if it's just the mentality or just thinking of being in a space confined in a chair for that long a period of
It's
time.
hard. I mean, I've been to Hawaii a couple times, not with my children, and I've
Mhm.
been to like Japan and Southeast Asia. It's a hard flight.
Yeah.
It helps if you fly like in the evening and you just try and pass out for as long as you can.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, you get a little stir crazy by the end. Although if you're going to Hawaii, you should just pit stop in California for a couple days because then it breaks it up into 6 and 6, and it's not so bad.
Oh yeah, I never thought about it. Well, yeah, after I got the first number of like 12 to 13 hours, it just I'm like,
You're like
okay,
canceled.
yeah. Yeah. I don't look too much past that. It's like that number, it has digits instead of one. I'm just a one digit flyer, 2 hours, I'm good to go, right?
You should drive to California. Hear me out. Drive to
Okay.
California and then get on a cruise, and you can cruise to Hawaii. Because then you're
Oh,
not really trapped. Like you can do
yeah.
all kinds of stuff on the boat. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. They take you
I
to
like
all the islands. Honestly, I might do that with not the driving to California part, but I might fly to California and do the Hawaii cruise with the boys eventually.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. I like the options that you're presenting. So it may make me revisit the trip to Hawaii. And
Yeah.
at least I know that there are options, which is a great, great thing, right? Tell me one thing that you've learned about yourself since quarantine.
Ooh, well, I have to say, I never really was in quarantine because I never stopped working. So I'd say our COVID experience in our family was probably very different than a lot of other families. We never got to like really shut down because I always went to work. Um, and then because I was working the whole time and my husband works, the kids were still with their nanny. And then they had opened up this emergency childcare at Camp Lincoln in Kingston, New Hampshire. So they were up there for a while. So long story short, we didn't get trapped at home the way a lot of other people did.
Mm-hmm.
For better or for worse. I mean, certainly in the beginning, I was like, well, we'll see how this goes.
Mm-hmm.
This might be the end of us. Um, but we actually did fairly well as a state and as a city, so it was ultimately okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess one thing I learned from like pandemic in general is that I'm not super good at pre-organizing. So like I really hate having to make appointments to do every little thing. Like sign up for a time slot to bring your kid in to get a haircut. And I'm like, oh Lord, I don't know. Like this one's taking a nap, that one is eating, everybody's crying. Like, I'm just not good at that kind of scheduling. Or like
Mm-hmm.
you gotta call ahead to pick up your food. And I'm like, I just want to be able to like swing by when I have a minute and pick something up. Or like that minute by minute day planning is not my strong suit probably.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be happy with things. Actually, I was really excited because I just saw that the pool is opening on Pierce Island this summer. And wait for it, you don't have to make reservations, which is awesome.
So now it's kind of helping you to get back to what you were used to, as far as like, if I have 30 minutes here, I need to make something happen. Just using your time when you have it available, as opposed
Yeah.
to one, which I can kind of see that being, you being in the career that you're in as a doctor, you have to get in and out. And then when you have time, you have time. And when you don't, well, you don't know when you'll have time, right? So you have to make things count. It's like make it count. Um, but it's exciting to hear that things are opening back up slowly and surely, and we'll see exactly how that goes. Hopefully, everything still stays the same, where we have people who are vaccinated, who are out and moving about the city and the town, which is probably going to bring more travelers, and it's going to start looking back to what it did, pre-COVID.
I think we're going to have a pretty hopping summer here, if I had to
Mm-hmm.
guess. I think people are going to come streaming back in. For
Mm-hmm.
better or for worse, we'll see how it goes. I'd say locally, we've done really well on vaccination and distancing and masking. Statewide, we're doing pretty well. I think we are lucky to be surrounded by Mass and Maine because they're also doing pretty well. So it's more the people from further afield that may sink this battleship, but we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now,
And,
what would you say to an aspiring person of color who's looking to get in to become a gynecologist?
um, well, there's a lot of hurdles on the way from like I graduated high school to I want to become a doctor of any kind. Um, and certainly improving representation in medicine more than anything, probably needs to address a lot of the systemic hurdles, which are many. So, like, maybe even before you graduate high school, honestly. So, you have to get into college, right? Which means you have to take, well, some places are getting rid of the SAT now. But anyway, you have to take some kind of testing and get accepted somewhere.
Mhm.
That's step one, which for a lot of kids is a hurdle because maybe their parents aren't supportive or they go to a terrible school that doesn't know how to get them from A to B, or they don't have the money for 100 college applications or to go touring all around the country, right? Um, and then you have to do well in college, which is also a bunch of barriers, right? So I had the benefit of not working through college, really. I had like this lab job I did, but I wasn't working for money. I was working for pocket change for myself because my parents paid for my schooling. But for people who have to pay their way through college, I can't imagine how difficult that must be. And then also have grades that are good enough to get into med school, which is a whole nother set of hurdles. It's another test. There's prep courses, there's the application fees, and then you're flying all over the country interviewing. So I don't know how much money we spent on that, but it was a pretty sizable chunk of change. And then once you're in med school, then you have to take out tons of loans, which may be a big barrier for some people. You have to pay for your living expenses, and you can't really work through med school. It's not super feasible. So it all of that requires a lot of family support, educational support, financial support. And I think for a lot of people, that's where that dream falls apart for them. And then once you get into med school, like from there, I'd say you just figure out what you want to do and you can probably do that. But getting your foot into that med school door, like that's probably the hardest part of that journey.
Mhm.
Um,
I just think about you just saying that, and I totally agree. Just the steps to get there, and when kid, I guess when someone, like you say, out of high school is thinking about, becoming a doctor, you have to think again if that has been laid out to them before so that they'll know like the reality. Once you graduate high school, this is the expectation so that you can work through it mentally, you can find some supportive community that can help move you along. But again, again, like you said, you don't have some, they don't have that. So it's now, do I just try to go to college and become a lawyer or become an engineer, and just it just kills the dream of becoming that doctor where the kid, as when they were smaller, that's all they wanted to do was become this doctor. And I guess just seeing it from your perspective, from the steps that you've actually taken to get there, wow. It's
it's a journey, and I did not get to where I am today by myself. Like
mhm,
one of my least favorite things about our like American psyche is this like bootstraps thing where you're like, I worked hard and that's how I got to where I am today. Like, yeah, it took a lot of hard work, but I could have worked equally hard and not ended up in the same place if I hadn't been supported by my mom and dad and, mentors that I met along the way, people who were like pushing me forward, who supported me in whatever way I needed or believed in me or kept me going. And I do think that depending on where you start in life, you may not have any of that available to you. So, some people like somehow do some kind of magic that I don't have, start with literally nothing and still end up where I'm at. But I'd say that is a needle in a haystack. And realistically, we got to figure out how to get people where they want to go
mhm,
without relying on, that they have all this support built in because not everybody does.
mhm,
And
mhm,
also, it's very expensive. We got to fix that. It's
mhm,
crazy.
mhm. And then which kind of results to, yeah, I'll just go work at McDonald's.
Well, you might end up somewhere in between, but
Yeah.
I mean, that said, like, my husband went to law school, and then when he graduated, the job he got offered was so bad he would have made more money being a manager at McDonald's. So there's something to be said for that too. But
Yeah.
he's doing better than that now, thankfully.
Well,
But
great. So before we get out of here, I want to find out what song do you have in your playlist, going on your playlist on repeat?
Ooh, all right. So several confessions. Like, I don't know. I don't listen to a lot of music anymore. I'm not sure why. I think it's because all my like time is with the kids, and I have to listen to their crappy kid songs. And then in the car, for whatever reason, I always listen to NPR because I got to like figure out what's going on during my 6 minutes of me time.
Yeah.
Um, but I'd say in the last few years, my like go-to is the Hamilton soundtrack, which is
Mhm.
not, I mean, it's music, but it's part of a show. But that always somehow makes me feel better about the state of things. I started like hardcore Hamiltoning when Trump got elected, and
Mhm.
like for whatever reason, that musical really like buoyed me for a while, and then I just go back to it when I'm feeling down about the, the world.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then what else have I been into lately? Nothing new. I'm like 15 years behind on music. I don't even
But
know what's going on now.
it's okay because you can still find some great tunes within that 15 years of where you at, because those
Yeah.
are some good jams and good tunes.
Like my Pandora station jam would be like 90s hip hop. It brings me right back to like middle school, riding the bus,
Yeah.
like jamming out to like Biggie Smalls back in the day in New York City, but thinking I was like cool. I was.
We all think we were cool when we were listening to Biggie Smalls and Tupac, and then don't let us memorize a verse because then we thought we were a rapper, and then it was just a whole
Oh
different
yeah.
anything, because now that's your jam because you're rapping along with Biggie and Tupac, so you felt a part of them.
Oh man. I can't even think about it because it's so embarrassing, but I participated in more than one show at summer camp as a child. We're like singing the Waterfall song by TLC with my little friends, and we're like dancing. And I thought it was really cool, but now I'm like, oh, good thing there's no video of that. I feel bad for kids today. There's video of everything.
I was gonna ask was that recorded. Like I would love to see that. Yeah, yeah, bring
Ooh,
it
I
out.
was not with my giant pants because everyone's pants were so big then for some reason, and
Yeah,
my very small shirt. Ridiculous.
yeah, totally agree. So, Roy, before we leave out of here, can you tell us where we can find you on social media?
Oh, well, the office has social media. Harbor Women's Health is on Instagram and Facebook. Um, I am not really like a public social media figure because I never post anything, so there would be nothing to look at. So,
All
like, I
right,
have Instagram and Facebook, but I don't really use them very much.
and that's totally okay. So we'll check out the Women's
Harbor,
Harbor Women's Health office on social media for Instagram and Facebook. I want to thank you so much for your time this afternoon and
oh,
chatting
thanks
with
for having
me.
me.
Thank you and sharing your background and story about how you are involved in the community. I want to thank those who are out there listening and watching for joining us this afternoon. And if you'd like to learn more about No to Patterns, or if you would like to become a sponsor, please visit notopatterns.com. We're wishing you peace, love, and community. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.